Every morning begins the same way for most people. The phone lights up before the sun does. Messages, news, reminders, deadlines, an avalanche of noise before your mind has a chance to breathe. The world whispers constantly, demanding attention, scattering thoughts, and leaving you exhausted before the day has even started. Now imagine a man in another time, sitting in silence as the city stirs awake. His name is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, yet his first act of the day is not to command armies or dictate laws. It is to command himself. His battlefield is within, his focus sharpened, his freedom preserved in a world as chaotic as ours. The contrast is striking. We, with endless technology, lose ourselves in distraction. They, with no screens or notifications, train to hold their mind steady as a flame in the wind. Their strength did not come from the absence of chaos, but from the discipline to remain undisturbed inside it. Seneca once wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. That waste is clearer than ever. Hours dissolve into scrolls, focus shattered into fragments, and stillness becomes a stranger. We trade clarity for stimulation and call it progress, yet we feel emptier each day. But there is another way, a path that allows you to silence the noise without leaving the world. A discipline that sharpens attention, builds resilience, and frees the mind from invisible chains. It is the Stoic way, and it is not a relic of the past. It is a living practice waiting for you to claim it. This video is not just about learning ancient wisdom. It is about applying it, moment by moment, until you can carry serenity into the storm, focus into the distraction, freedom into the clutter of modern life. Think of it as building your own inner citadel, a fortress of clarity no chaos can breach. And before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments which city or country you're watching from. I want to see where this journey of Stoic focus is reaching, because clarity knows no borders and freedom of mind is a universal pursuit. To understand how to free your mind, we must first uncover why it is chained in the first place. That is where we begin. The invisible chains of distraction. Your mind was not built to process the flood of noise you face each day. Every notification, every alert, every demand pulls at your attention like invisible hands. What looks harmless, a glance at your phone, a quick check of your messages, fragments your focus until concentration feels impossible. You are not simply busy. You are chained. Epictetus once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Today, our imagination is not left alone to wander freely. It is hijacked by constant signals engineered to keep us restless. Social platforms and endless streams of information make your mind a battlefield where clarity loses ground to distraction. The tragedy is not just lost minutes, but a stolen life. When attention is scattered, presence vanishes. You sit at dinner but think of work. You try to read but scroll instead. You want to create but consume endlessly. These invisible chains steal the richness of the moment before you even notice. Modern science confirms what the Stoics already knew. Attention is the foundation of everything. Studies in neuroscience show that focus literally rewires the brain, shaping who you become. Each time you give in to distraction, you are training weakness. Each time you resist, you are forging strength. Yet there is hope in awareness. The first step is seeing the chain for what it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that the obstacle is often the way. Recognizing distraction as the obstacle transforms it into the training ground for discipline. What irritates you can become what frees you. So, you begin to notice. That pull toward the phone, that itch to check one more time. And in that moment of awareness, you have a choice. You can serve distraction or you can reclaim yourself. The choice is small, but repeated, it reshapes an entire life. Tell me in the comments, where do you notice distraction chains the strongest in your daily life? At work, at home, or in the quiet moments that never seem to stay quiet? If distractions are chains, then the next chapter will reveal the key that Stoics used to break them: the art of inner fortress. The Stoics spoke often of the inner citadel, a place within you that cannot be touched by fortune, failure, or the noise of the crowd. Marcus Aurelius described it as a stronghold built not of stone, but of discipline and perspective. When the world pressed against him, this was where he stood unshaken. Think of this fortress not as escape, but as protection. It is the ability to move through chaos without letting it dictate your inner state. Most people live with the gates wide open, letting every opinion, every criticism, every distraction march right in. A Stoic closes those gates, deciding carefully what may enter. Modern life makes this fortress more urgent than ever. Cal Newport calls it digital minimalism, curating what deserves your attention instead of drowning in everything at once. It is not about rejecting technology, but about using it with intention, the same way a Stoic would use power, wealth, or influence as a tool, never as a master. Building the fortress begins with boundaries. Seneca wrote that if you do not know to which port you sail, no wind is favorable. Boundaries give shape to your days. They tell the world, this hour is for deep work, this hour is for family, this hour is for silence. Without them, you drift in constant reaction, never command. But a fortress is not just walls. It has a center, the throne of your own judgment. The Stoics insisted that events are neutral, and only your interpretation gives them weight. A harsh word cannot harm you unless you let it inside. A missed opportunity cannot crush you unless you declare it defeat. The fortress is the power to choose your response. Practice this today. When something disturbs you, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control or outside it? If it is outside, let it stay outside your walls. If it is within, act with clarity. This single question sharpens the mind more than hours of complaint ever could. I want to know from you, what would your life look like if distractions and opinions could no longer storm your gates? Share your vision in the comments, because imagining the fortress is the first step to building it. But having a fortress is not enough. In the next chapter, we'll learn how to sharpen the weapon that defends it, your attention. The weapon of attention. Attention is the sharpest weapon you possess, yet most people let it grow dull through constant distraction. A Stoic philosopher treated attention as a sacred discipline because wherever your attention goes, your life follows. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your thoughts depends on the direction of your attention." Modern neuroscience confirms this ancient insight. What you focus on strengthens in the brain through repetition. If your attention is always divided, your mind learns fragmentation. If you train deep focus, your mind learns clarity. Attention is not passive. It is active construction. You are either sharpening the blade or letting it rust. The problem is not that attention has weakened, but that it has been scattered. Your mind is pulled in 100 directions, never given the chance to stay on one thing long enough to reach depth. Epictetus would call this slavery, being dragged by impulses instead of choosing your path. A Stoic practice for sharpening attention is presence. When you eat, notice the food. When you walk, feel each step. When you read, give yourself entirely to the words. These simple acts, repeated daily, are not just rituals. They are strength training for the mind. Each moment of presence sharpens the blade. James Clear reminds us that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Every small act of attention compounds into focus that cannot be shaken. You do not need dramatic transformations. You need consistent sharpening. A blade honed each day cuts through any distraction. Try this experiment. For the next task you do, eliminate every possible distraction. No phone nearby, no background noise. Choose a single goal and give it undivided attention for a set time. When your mind wanders, bring it back like a warrior returning to the battlefield. This is how attention is forged. Tell me in the comments, what activity do you want to experience with full attention this week? Reading, working, creating, or even resting? Your answer is the first step to sharpening the blade. Once attention is sharpened, the Stoic knew it needed rhythm. In the next chapter, we will explore the rhythm of focus, the balance between intense work and deliberate rest. The rhythm of focus. Focus is not a straight line. It is a rhythm. The Stoics understood that intensity must be balanced with pause, just as the heart beats in contraction and release. Marcus Aurelius worked as emperor, soldier, and philosopher, yet he carved time for stillness, reflection, and writing. His rhythm gave him endurance, not collapse. In our world, many chase productivity as if it were a sprint. They burn bright, then burn out. The Stoic rhythm is different. It is closer to waves, periods of deep immersion followed by renewal. Seneca wrote that we must sometimes retreat into ourselves, not as escape, but as preparation to return stronger. Cal Newport calls this deep work, long stretches of focused effort, free from distraction. But even deep work must be punctuated by deliberate rest. Without recovery, the mind grows blunt. The Stoics, without modern science, already practiced this by alternating public duties with solitude, noise with silence, debate with meditation. When you ignore rhythm, you feel it. Fatigue creeps in, attention fractures, and anxiety rises. But when you honor it, energy flows naturally. Each phase, work and rest, strengthens the other. Focus sharpens in the sprint, wisdom settles in the pause. Together, they create mastery. To live with rhythm, you must structure your day. Decide when you will give yourself fully to one task, and decide when you will step away to breathe, reflect, or move your body. Without intention, you will always default to distraction. With rhythm, you reclaim control of time. Try this. Work with full intensity for 90 minutes. Then walk outside, stretch, or write a few thoughts. Return and notice how the mind dives deeper the second time. Repeat this cycle, and you will discover that rhythm sustains clarity longer than brute force ever could. I'd love to know in the comments, what rhythm works best for you? Short bursts of focus or long stretches followed by silence? Share it, because designing your rhythm is designing your freedom, but rhythm alone isn't freedom. In the next chapter, we'll learn how to silence the noise that keeps echoing inside your mind, even when the world outside is quiet. The silence within noise. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of clarity. A Stoic philosopher could sit in a crowded forum, surrounded by arguments, laughter, and chaos, yet remain untouched by the noise. His silence lived within, not around him. This kind of silence is not a luxury, it is a discipline. Modern people confuse silence with isolation. They search for quiet rooms, noise-canceling headphones, retreats far from the city. Yet the mind carries its own noise, unfinished tasks, replayed conversations, constant fears. External silence cannot cure internal noise. The Stoics taught that true silence is mastery over inner dialogue. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that people would gossip, criticize, or act unjustly, but none of that needed to disturb him. What mattered was the space he guarded in his own mind. That inner silence gave him strength to rule an empire without being ruled by its noise. We see the same principle in meditation today. Neuroscience shows that observing your thoughts without reacting lowers stress and restores clarity. Breathing, journaling, or simply watching your own mind are modern methods for building the same silence the Stoics carried through Rome's chaos. Try this tonight. Sit for 5 minutes, no phone, no music, no conversation. Let thoughts appear, then let them pass like clouds across the sky. Do not fight them, do not cling to them. Watch. This practice is silence within noise, the training ground of focus. Seneca warned that most people are never with themselves. They are always elsewhere, pulled into noise they did not choose, but you can choose. You can step back inwardly, even in the middle of a busy street. That choice is the birth of freedom. Share in the comments. What moment in your day feels the noisiest? And how would it change if you carried silence into it instead of waiting for the world to quiet down first? And once silence is mastered, the Stoics went deeper. In the next chapter, you will discover how to free not only your thoughts, but also your emotions, turning turmoil into clarity. Emotional alchemy of the Stoics. Emotions are not enemies. They are raw energy, waiting to be shaped. The Stoics never denied fear, anger, or desire. They transformed them. Seneca described anger as a fire that can burn the house down, but if guided, the same fire can forge steel. This is the art of emotional alchemy, turning impulses into clarity. Fear was not something Epictetus told his students to ignore. Instead, he taught them to face it by imagining what could go wrong before it happened, the practice of premeditatio malorum. By rehearsing adversity in the mind, fear lost its grip and courage grew in its place. What once chained them became training for freedom. Anger, too, was not suppressed but rechanneled. A Stoic would pause, examine the spark, and ask, "Is this within my control?" If not, anger dissolved. If yes, the fire became determination. The discipline of delay transformed destructive rage into decisive action. Even desire was not erased, but purified. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that pleasures were fleeting, and only virtue remained steady. By seeing desire clearly, the Stoics redirected it toward mastery, service, and meaning, desires that elevated instead of enslaved. Modern psychology mirrors this wisdom. Cognitive reframing, emotional regulation, and mindfulness all echo Stoic practices. Neuroscience shows that when you reinterpret emotion, the brain rewires its response. What felt like threat becomes opportunity. What felt like chaos becomes order. You can practice this today. When a strong emotion rises, label it. This is fear. This is anger. By naming it, you separate yourself from it. Then ask, what can this teach me? How can I use this energy to build instead of destroy? That single pause is the doorway to alchemy. Tell me in the comments, which emotion do you most want to master? Fear, anger, or desire? Your choice is the first step toward transforming it into fuel for focus. But focus without direction is wasted. In the next chapter, we will anchor Stoic focus into something greater, a purpose that gives every moment meaning. Focus anchored in purpose. A sharp blade is useless without a target. The same is true for focus. You can train your attention, silence distractions, and master emotions, but without a clear purpose, all that strength drifts aimlessly. The Stoics called this guiding principle logos, the order and meaning that directs life towards something higher. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings reminding himself that he was not alive merely to sleep or to please others, but to serve humanity and live in alignment with reason. His focus had an anchor. Every act was weighed against his duty as a man and as an emperor. This anchor gave his life clarity and momentum. Seneca urged his readers to measure each day against their ultimate purpose. If you do not choose where to place your energy, the world will choose for you. Focus without purpose becomes scattered productivity, busy yet hollow, efficient yet empty. Purpose transforms effort into significance. Modern thinkers echo this. James Clear explains that identity-based habits last longer because they tie action to who you want to become. Cal Newport insists that deep work must serve a mission greater than endless tasks. Purpose does not only tell you what to do, it tells you why to endure. To find your anchor, ask, what do I want my days to add up to? What values will I refuse to compromise? What legacy do I want my focus to build? The answers may be simple, but they shape every choice. Once clear, distractions lose power because they do not fit your direction. Practice this by writing a single line each morning. Today I focus on what serves my purpose. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Soon you will notice how quickly your mind rejects what does not align and how naturally it stays with what does. I want to hear from you. What greater purpose do you want your focus to serve? Share it in the comments because declaring it makes it real and anchors are strongest when spoken. And when focus finds purpose, the final step is freedom. In the next chapter, you will see how Stoic focus is not just control of the mind, but liberation of the soul. Freedom through Stoic focus. Imagine a mind like a clear sky. Clouds of distraction may pass, storms of emotion may roar, yet above them the vastness remains untouched. This is the freedom the Stoics pursued, not escape from life, but mastery within it. Focus was never their end goal. Freedom was. When Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome, he was surrounded by noise, politics, war, and betrayal. Yet his writings reveal a man who carried peace within himself, because his focus was anchored on what no one could steal, his character, his reason, his inner fortress. Freedom was not the absence of burden, but the presence of clarity. This same freedom is available today. You do not need an empire to feel overwhelmed. The phone in your pocket can conquer your mind more effectively than an invading army. But when you sharpen attention, build rhythm, and anchor focus and purpose, you rise above the storm. You move from slavery to freedom. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." True freedom is to be fully present in this moment, to act with intention instead of reaction, to live guided by reason rather than impulse. When you focus like a Stoic, you stop scattering your life across meaningless distractions and begin shaping it with deliberate clarity. Modern life tries to convince you that freedom comes from having more choices. The Stoics taught the opposite. Freedom comes from choosing wisely, from saying no, from directing focus where it matters most. Each decision to guard your mind is a step into liberty. This freedom is not loud. It does not need applause. It is the quiet confidence of knowing your time belongs to you, your emotions serve you, and your focus creates the life you choose. It is the calm strength of walking through noise without carrying it inside. So I ask you, what will you free your mind from today? Tell me in the comments and also share your city or country. I want to see how far this Stoic journey has traveled. How many people across the world are choosing clarity over chaos? You now hold the same weapon the Stoics carried. The chains of distraction have been revealed, the fortress within built, the blade of attention sharpened, the rhythm of focus established, the silence mastered, the emotions transformed, the purpose anchored. All that remains is to live free,